Joan of Arc needs no introduction. The legendary French warrior maiden who led France to victory against the English during the 100 Years' War, who was betrayed, captured, tried and convicted of heresy, and ultimately burned alive at the stake at the young age of 19. Her story has been told and retold countless times, immortalized in art, literature, and film. We all know the tale of Joan of Arc, or so we think. What many don't realize, however, is that the story of Joan of Arc did not end with her tragic death in 1431. In fact, it was at that point that the most extraordinary chapter of her story was just beginning. The fight to restore Joan's honor and clear her name did not end with her execution. In fact, it only began. And it was a fight that would ultimately take an astonishing 25 years to win and lead to one of the greatest legal and historical triumphs ever seen. Because if Joan of Arc's story had ended with her execution, then the enemies of France would have won not just the battle, but the war. They would have succeeded in silencing the voice that had led France to victory. They would have erased the hero that the French people needed in their darkest hour. Joan may have died, but they would not allow her spirit to be broken. For Joan of Arc had a mother, a warrior queen in her own right, a woman who refused to let her daughter's sacrifice be in vain, a woman who took on the might of the Catholic Church, the French monarchy, and history itself, and emerged victorious after a quarter-century of tireless campaigning. A true legend, Joan's mother, Isabel. Now, if you know anything about Joan of Arc, then you probably know that she came from humble beginnings. She was the daughter of Jacques d'Arc and Isabel, a poor peasant family living on a small farm in the village of Domremy in northeastern France. If there's one thing that sets Joan apart from other legendary heroes, it's that she wasn't born to greatness. She didn't come from a royal line or have any particular advantages. She was just a simple country girl who heard the call of God and answered it without hesitation. But while Joan may have been naive and unassuming, her mother, Isabella, was a force to be reckoned with. When Jacques d'Arc died, leaving Isabella a young widow with 4 children, she didn't just accept her fate and retreat into the shadows. Instead, she raised her children with the values of courage, faith, and justice, instilling in them the strength and determination that would serve them well in the years to come. And when Joan was falsely accused of witchcraft at the age of 13 and taken to the local bishop for trial, it was Isabella who stepped up to defend her, traveling to the neighboring town to plead her daughter's innocence and ultimately winning her release. And when Joan began hearing voices that told her she was destined to lead France to victory against the English, it was Isabella who supported her daughter's mission, even when others tried to dissuade her. And when Joan of Arc was captured, tried and convicted of heresy by a corrupt church court, it was Isabella who vowed to fight for her daughter's innocence until her dying breath. So let's talk numbers. Joan of Arc's mother was in her 70s when she embarked on a 25-year campaign to clear her daughter's name. During this time, she traveled hundreds of miles across war-torn France, braving danger and hardship to petition church officials and government leaders to reopen Joan's trial. Despite her advanced age and poor health, she refused to give up, determined to see justice done for her daughter. She attended the retrial in person, presenting evidence and calling witnesses to testify to Joan's innocence. Ultimately, her persistence paid off when Joan was finally declared innocent and a martyr 25 years after her death. That's right. It took a quarter-century for the truth to prevail in this case, a testament to the tenacity and determination of Joan's mother. Talk about commitment. It's hard to imagine anyone else undertaking such a long and arduous journey, especially at such an advanced age. But that's exactly what Isabella did, driven by her unwavering love for her daughter. Throughout Joan's trial and subsequent persecution, Isabella remained steadfast in her belief in her daughter's innocence. She knew that Joan was a good and pious girl who had been manipulated and used by those in power. Despite facing skepticism and opposition from those around her, Isabella never wavered in her commitment to clearing Joan's name. And let's not forget the impact of this case. Joan's conviction had not only devastated her family, but had also shaken the foundations of the French monarchy. By reopening the trial and clearing Joan's name, Isabella helped to restore the reputation of her daughter and the legitimacy of the crown. As I mentioned earlier, Joan of Arc's story doesn't end with her death. It continues through the efforts of her family, particularly her mother, to clear her name and restore her honor. After Joan was burned at the stake, her body was desecrated and her remains scattered. But her mother, Isabella, refused to let this be the end of the story. Determined to seek justice for her daughter, Isabella embarked on a pilgrimage to Rome to petition Pope Calixtus III to reopen Joan's trial. She met with the Pope and presented her case, arguing that Joan had been wrongfully convicted and that her trial had been marred by corruption and political interference. Though initially skeptical, the Pope was eventually persuaded by Isabella's pleas and agreed to authorize a retrial. The retrial, known as the nullification trial, took place in 1456 and lasted several months. During the trial, over 100 witnesses were called to testify to Joan's innocence and the circumstances surrounding her trial and execution. Evidence was presented to the church court demonstrating that the original trial had been manipulated by pro-English, clergy, and politically motivated enemies of Joan and the French crown. In the end, the weight of the evidence was too great to ignore, and Joan was declared innocent and a martyr. It was a moment of triumph for Isabella, and a vindication of her daughter's honor. The news of Joan's acquittal spread quickly throughout France and beyond, and she was celebrated as a hero. The story of Joan of Arc's mother, Isabella, is truly inspiring. In the face of adversity, she refused to give up on her daughter's innocence and fought tirelessly for 25 years to clear her name. Her tenacity and determination ultimately paid off, and Joan's legacy was restored. If you like stories like these, then make sure to subscribe to the channel and check out more of our content. We have countless more stories of courage, determination, and heroism waiting for you, so don't miss out. Subscribe today and join our community of history lovers. You'll be glad you did. Till next time, remember to keep fighting for what you believe in and never give up in the face of adversity. Who knows? You might just be the next Isabella. Thank you for watching. Now go forth and be legendary. Finally, it's important to note that the story of Joan of Arc and her mother, Isabella, is more than just a historical footnote. It's a testament to the power of perseverance and the importance of fighting for justice, no matter how long the odds may seem. In a world that often values strength and power above all else, it's easy to forget the importance of courage and compassion. But the story of these two women reminds us that it's often the quietest voices that make the loudest statements, and that it's the unwavering pursuit of truth and justice that ultimately leads to the greatest victories.